Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Elijah Desmond with the Backstage Pass podcast. And we have with me my dear friend, coach, mentor, this dental celeb himself, Dr. Eric Roman. How you doing today, Eric?
I mean, we're just brothers, Elijah. It's good to be here with you, man. I have treasured our relationship over the past years.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, for the people who don't know you, and people that do know you, but they want to get to know you better, can you dive in to when you wore a size 2 shoe, size 3 shoe, and you're just little baby Eric Roman with the man bun?
hmm I wish little baby Eric Roman had a man bun. Wouldn't that have been better?
And bring me up to today. Just 5-10 minute overview, and then I'll dive in with some questions about what you're doing for our industry now.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's see. What do you need to know about little baby Eric? Um, Little baby Eric grew up in Orlando, Florida, had a great childhood. And my parents were both in the airline industry, and they both lost their jobs at the exact same time. Nothing of their own accord. It didn't matter that my dad was a great pilot or a horrible pilot. It didn't matter that my mom was a great flight attendant or a horrible one. And that was like little Eric's world got turned upside down. Like where are we gonna have to move to? Am I gonna lose all my friends, all the other stuff? And so, there was a seed planted that little Eric, as he grows up, is gonna have control over his future. And so hey, I ended up in dentistry. I mean, we skipped a bunch of steps in between, but dentistry always seemed like the space that would give me the security of a skill that can create a great income, but also the freedom to be a true entrepreneur and build business. And there's just something about business that was always natural and attractive to me. And so in the time since, my entire life is DSO based. I have built and exited a couple of my own groups. I've now had the opportunity to coach several billion in annual revenue of dental groups. I've had the opportunity to coach in a bunch of different facets, working with visionaries like on their vision and their strategy, building cultures and teams. And now, my primary focus is the health of the associates that fuel DSOs and the clinical leadership that's there to take care of them. So, man, Elijah, I've done a lot. How's that as a summary of little Eric to today?
That was like a really fast summary. So I'm gonna that was a really good. Like you know
Too
how to
too
take
fast,
something.
huh?
You know how to take something and condense it to 2 minutes. Great summary. I'll dig in on a couple of things. First, I'm so curious on the age that happened with both your parents in the airline business. How old were you? So I'm curious about that. And then also,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to dig in a little bit deeper because you said you've built and sold a couple of groups. Dig into the groups a little bit more. I think it's important to understand your foundation and where you come from, and so people can actually relate and say, "Man, like, who I don't want to do this, or I want to do
Mhm.
that whenever I grow up." That kind of thing.
Yeah. I love that, Elijah. So, going back to Lil Eric, let's bring that little dude back in here. I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old when all that took place, and I've actually read stuff since that says that that's like a real turning point age, like in shift. I had enough awareness about exactly what was going on. Actually, in fact, I was at the Orlando International Airport, like carrying picket signs with my parents. Like that was my experience. There's nobody else to take care of me while they were picketing to try and keep their jobs. And so, yeah, so 8 years old. So it was a pretty, it was a, at that time, I didn't know what a lesson it would be. But like, in therapy and stuff since, like a lot of things inside of my life go back to those stories.
Wow, that's awesome. And then jump to the DSO. So you went through college. Where'd you graduate college from? You went through college and you went and decided I wanted to own these group practices. Tell us about the groups a little bit. I need people to know like why they should like people should listen up. And by the way, not for nothing, but like you have been coaching. Like, I've started 20 different businesses and dissolved a bunch. I've sold, exited multiple times. I've failed multiple times, and you've been with me through the hardest part of all those. Like 3.5 years, you've been my coach, and I'm proud to say that I'll shoot from the mountaintops. So I need people to know, besides the fact that you're just like an amazing human and you're great at business, dive in a little bit deeper into the business side of dentistry for you.
You know, um, when I was in school, so my first life was through Florida State University. I played baseball there. I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. I still believe I could have been. I tore my rotator cuff at a really inopportune time. Same exact time I got my dental school acceptance letter, and it was
Mm.
like, well, is this a sign? And so I made that decision to pivot and to embark on dental school. I still have days sometimes where I'm like, was that the right decision? I don't know. But and we always talk about living without regrets. Well, nobody does. And what we should be learning from them. Our regrets should be our instructors and our teachers, and what we do in the future and who we want to become. So went to dental school. And honestly, when I first went to dental school, I just did it because it seemed like it was going to be a really successful career. But as I got deeper into it, I was learning about the dental business, reading every magazine, like studying all this stuff. As my friends always joked, they called me Google. It was like uh, uh, I was the one that always had the answer outside of the box, while everybody else was trying to get three or four more questions right on the test. I was learning how to build a successful dental practice while we were in school, and it was so exciting for me. Uh, even and I love clinical dentistry, Elijah, but the business side of it like was even more amazing. And so I knew when I got out, I was building a group. One way or the other, I knew it. I recruited one of my residency partners out of a residency program to go in a business model where we started with two docs, operated 12-hour shifts 6 days a week in order to drive patient growth. I would work my butt off during the day doing dentistry, trying to be amazing and being a super GP. And I'd come home, I'd kiss my babies and my wife, and then when they'd all go to bed at 10:30 or 11, I'd work from 11 till sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning building the systems that we needed to implement the next morning in the business to keep this thing growing. And man, I spent a lot of time in that mechanism, and like that's a lot of the part that I I'm a systems thinker, Elijah. I always have been. I think in healthy systems. One of the things I've encountered in coaching so much DSO revenue is everybody's always asking, I just need better systems. I just need more systems. I just need a system because they understand systems create predictable results, but they often aren't inclined to be able to create them or put them in place. And that was one of my gifts. That's one of the ways that we were able to succeed. Elijah, it was hell too, man. It was hard. I, you know, I would love to tell you that, growing up in, I guess, a pseudo version of the information age, like the early eras of it, that I just learned from everybody else and didn't make any mistakes. No, I made every mistake, sometimes two or three times. I screwed up in how I managed my team. I had high turnover. I like blew it with my doctors. Like I lost everything at one point about 5 years in. So, it's not an absence of mistakes. It's the character um and the things that we choose to do from those mistakes that probably define our stories more than anything. I just, I got back up as hard as it was, as embarrassing as it was sometimes after some of the things that I did failed. I got back up and I committed to better, and that's my story over, just over a decade of running groups. I kept getting better and I kept getting better. And sometimes my people didn't believe in me, Elijah. I had dentists that were like, Roman, I've listened to all your crap and you never changed. I'm like, I'm sorry you don't think so. This probably isn't the right fit for you to be here because I'm committed to changing. I'm committed to us achieving our goals and being what we've set out to be. And so I know that's a really high level story there, but that's the business journey. Like the business journey isn't like roses and rainbows and happy days. It's hell, man. It's hard stuff. So I never had more than 300 employees at any time, but when we've done the math, I've had well over 1,000, almost 2,000 employees over the course of like 12 years.
Wow.
Woo. That's a lot of
After
turnover.
after the 5 years
Yeah.
where you hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
did you recover? How did you recover? And when did you end up selling?
Yes. First, like rock bottom was I woke up one morning and I just finished going through a regulatory lawsuit that we thought I was going to win, and I lost in a sense, and I lost everything. I had no practice anymore. I had no income anymore. And yet I already had purchased a big house and all the things. And I think I had 3 or 4 kids at the time. And so those were really hard days, really, really hard days. And you know what? I get my life is about what you do when you reach a fork in the road, Elijah. It's funny. Somebody was asking me, like, if you were to tell Eric Roman's story, what would it be? It'd be about forks in the road. Maybe we'll call it What the Fork. Like, I mean, but I had two choices: tuck my tail in and like take my medicine and just give up, or take the lessons and do it again. And so I did it again. We grew from nothing again to about 40 million in revenue in about 5 years. About 5 years was the timeline. And I think from the moment it started to the moment that I personally exited was about 6 years of total time. And so, like I look back on that, did I need to exit the business? Did I really, I, I can't really say now. When I look back, there were things that I really missed when I exited the business, Elijah. It was really great validation to say, look at the money I've made. Like my family, we were freed up to move to new places and go on a new journey and do new stuff. I was free to never have to be tied to a chair and like a server blowing up and any of that stuff. But as time's gone on, I think it's 6 years since that now. I look back, I'm like, I really missed having a team. I was really good at that. I really missed some of the other components of what we got to do in the business. So, there's no right answers. There's only what we choose to do and how we execute on it. But how'd that do it answering your inquiry?
I mean, that's amazing. Speaking of team, I will never forget. It was around 2015,
Mhm.
and I talked to this amazing human that I got along with so well. We had very similar energies, and she told me about this amazing dentist, and she was moving, I believe, across the country to South Carolina or North Carolina for. And she just spoke of this person so crazy, and she's like, "You would love him, this and that," and she seemed to have all the faith in the world, and I believe that person may be doing something with you now, maybe not, maybe. Her name's Josie,
Yeah.
and and I had no idea who you were at the time. I just know that one of the people that I felt that I like, we always seen eye to eye. We completely vibed. She had insanely good energy, just like you, and it turned out to be you. So like, jump fast forward from 15 to now, that's 10 years, and we've been rocking for over 3.5 years, and now you've taken somebody that I believed helped you grow that team, and you've
Mhm.
created multiple things, and now you've created this new thing. You want to tell me about the new thing that you guys are doing, and kind of describe what you've jumped into?
Yeah, of course. And like let's honor Josie Sewell for a moment. I think it's a great point. No business person along the way, or at least none that I would ever want to deal with, doesn't doesn't have just a couple of stories of people that have changed their lives and that they've lucked out on. Josie Sewell flew across the country to join my company when we were a dental group, and in the time since, we have built a bunch of stuff together. She's been my business partner for years in different iterations now, and that brings us to where we are. One of the things I've discovered, Elijah, like Josie and I am working together and coaching companies. One of the saddest things in dental groups is like everything's going great, and then we get a phone call and they're like, "Hey, we're going under. We're like weeks away from being bankrupt." And we would be constantly like, "We were just doing so great. What happened?" And every single time, Elijah, when we trace the roots back, it just seems like as we start growing dental groups, our focus like shifts up. We start looking up in the sky for more locations and better marketing and all that stuff, but we stop looking at the unit, like the people doing dentistry, the dentists, the managers, and even the hygienists. And so Josie and I just recognized that the scalability of DSOs or dental groups, whatever you want to call it, is entirely the quality of scalability is entirely built in the quality and success of dentists. Dentists have to get what they want. They've worked so hard for it. And yet we all know how bad the data is. Associateship is not going well. And so we committed to that, Elijah. We recognize that associates need a clear pathway for success in what they're doing. And at the same time, there was no playbook for clinical leadership. No matter how big the company, I was really disappointed when I went in and I looked at their clinical leadership systems that were in place. And so that's where Josie and I put our energy for the foreseeable future. We call it dental associate growth. And so for groups or for high growth practices or for groups that their future is through having dentists and multiplying great dentists, scalability through dentist success, well, that's us. We're the people to make it simple and to care for the doctors and to put those clinical leadership systems in place. And because we've done this so much, Elijah, we recognize that it's not about what you can do. It's about how easy we can make it for you to do it. And out there's a lot of coaches and consultants that hey, you got to do all the work, Elijah. And that just doesn't fit for the amount of time that you have on your schedule. That's what we're pros at. We know how to make this fly. And it's been fun, Elijah, making the decision to put energy and effort into this. And as we've been doing it, working with hundreds of associates and dozens of companies this past year, it's really validating. It's it's great when we're inside the dental industry and you really feel like you're doing something that creates value.
Can you tell me what lights you up the most about what
Mm.
you're doing right now? What lights you up the most?
Um, what lights me up the most is giving people hope and a pathway. We had a story just this week. I ran it. I just done a quick program for some friends that run a dental group up in the Chicago area. And they're like, "Oh, Eric, we forgot to tell you. One of the doctors you met doubled his production in 3 weeks." I was like, "Wait,
Wow.
what?" They're like, "Yeah." And we asked him. He went from 37,000 a month to 75,000 a month. And we asked him, "What just happened?" He's like, "I just did what Roman told me to do." And they said what was more amazing about it was that prior to that, he's producing 37 a month, and they're like, "Can you not get to 40?" And he's like, "I don't think I can hit 40." And now he's at 75 and they asked, "Can you hit 90?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can hit 90." And
Wow.
so it's unlocking something for someone, Elijah. One thing that I've learned both as a coach and maybe just in life is that we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make him drink. We can tell him the water's delicious. We can show him how to do it. We can do all those things, but at the end of the day, people have to drink. And so giving people hope and giving them an opportunity to drink something good, whether it's these dentists, these associate dentists, or whether it's the clinical leadership teams, I just love those stories. I love those stories. One of the things I love hearing clinical leadership teams say, so many of them are like, "Eric, we accomplished more in a single day than we have in years of working at this." And that sort of thing, just that makes me feel validated, and that I've made things easy for someone, and that, hey, what's my business journey, Elijah? It's just screwing crap up. So I screw up every day still. I make mistakes every day. But at the end of the day, what I want to be able to say is, hey, listen, like, I just want to leave you better than we found you. And I'm committed to that. And when you feel like I didn't do that, let me know and I'll dig in deeper to be able to get there. So, yeah, how's that fit?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me give you a example. So, or I should say a question. It could be a perfect example. So I work with dentists regularly that we're trying to sell their practice. And
Hmm.
oftentimes we fall short. Sometimes we fall short when it's a dentist that is a very high producer. I'm talking
Yes.
a dentist that's a three, four, five, six, seven, $8 million producer themselves,
Yeah.
and and we have trouble finding the buyer for that dentist because they're the single point of failure.
Yeah.
And we say the words, well, if you consider hiring an associate, well, I do have one associate. However, they do like this minimal piece, or they say
Mhm.
we've tried, but we can't go. It hasn't worked.
Yes.
In a situation like that, what are you doing? Like, I know you can't spill the whole program out, but like, are
Yeah.
you first? Are you working with the doctor to make sure it's a welcoming environment for when the dentist comes in, or are you doing that? Are you helping with the hiring? Are you using other hiring agencies to hire? What are you doing in an instance like this for these dentists that are so desperate because
Yeah.
they can't sell? They need to have a second doctor that knows systems and processes, or a doctor or two at that.
Yeah, what you're saying is like the holy grail is that the practices operate on cruise control without you, that primary dentist needing to be there. And yet it only happens when we have a certain caliber and quality of dentist that's in there. We do two things at the same time, Elijah. Number one, well, what we don't do, we don't recruit for you. We will show you how to build the absolute most standout, high quality recruiting systems. You've got to stand out if you want to get the best quality. And we're going to show people how to do that. But we help our customers put the systems in place first because people talk about that all the time. Like, well, but how do I meet with them? Or how do we set up clinical standards? Or what am I going to need to do? Or what does my contract need to look like? We take care of putting all that stuff in place. It's like you're buying a package to like make you associate ready, but not just associate ready, like category of one, outlier skill set. Like you are the cream of the crop when you implement these systems. But at the same time, what we do is we work directly with the associate doctors because it's kind of weird when I was growing up, Elijah, playing baseball with my dad. Um, it was hard for my dad to coach me. Why? Because he was my dad. But when another coach was like, "Hey, Eric, you should put your arm up or lift your elbow or something like that," I'd be like, "Oh, okay, thanks, coach." My dad's like, "I've been telling you that for years." And we've noticed that that same relationship kind of exists in dental practice. And so what's hard sometimes is for owner doctor to constantly be trying to develop these dentists who are like, yeah, you're owner doctor. It's kind of like your dad and I don't quite listen to everything that you say. Not that that's the relationship. But what it's nice about us being there doing the training is one, I'm a third party. I'm not your owner. And two, I can actually be really direct because of that, Elijah. I can like say some of the hard truths and stuff without misrepresenting the company. I can say like, "Hey, listen, like no offense, but if I was your owner, doc, and you're not following through on your portion of this, I'm not listening to any of your complaints about wanting new patients when you're doing such a crappy job taking care of the ones you have." So like, we're able to have hard conversations. And when you have a hard conversation like that, it's going to go one of two ways. The dentist is going to hear it and be like, you're right. And honestly, most do. But on the other hand, sometimes the dentist is going to be like, oh, hell no. How dare he say that? And the truth is, that's why it's not working with this dentist. And so you need it one way or the other. That's hopefully explaining what we do. Systems for the owners to be able to scale the company and scale the associate side, and then direct training for the associates to unlock their best.
That makes sense. Can you tell me, where do you see most leaders getting stuck?
Mm. Whew. Um, the very first thing we do, Elijah, the very first thing, most leaders have never, when an associate's joining your company, they have a certain set of expectations that you figured some crap out, that you've got some things going on, you've got some best practices. But until you document a recipe for how dentists can be great inside your company, there isn't one. And I would say that 95% of the companies that we encounter, when I say, "Hey, show me your documented recipes for success that everybody follows," they're like, I don't have one. I'm like, well, no wonder, right? And you got good for a reason. Write it down, follow it, refine it. That's the number one spot. The second spot, Elijah, is that this is a weird dentist thing. Dentists are afraid to performance manage other dentists. And so, very few of the companies that I encounter is the owner dentist, the person whose job it would be to do it, are they comfortable doing reviews with their dentists and enhancing their performance? Yet dentists want it. Like, we want this, we want to grow. You got to show me how, but they're not willing to do it or have tough conversations. I think those are the two biggest things. I mean, I could go on all day long about how they lack the systems, all the other stuff. If you just had a recipe and you had a rhythm to be able to reinforce it where you're really connecting with that individual, it's like, man, it's hard to screw up.
Got it. Can you tell me what is something that you are surprising dentists with? So they're working with you and they're surprised something happened. Like, wow, I didn't realize this was going to happen. What would that be?
Dentists, the associate dentists or the dentists that go through our program, one of the things that they're surprised about, they're surprised. Like, they're surprised by the shift in mindset that they go through. One of the things I talk about all the time, I have a bunch of little like Eric Roman mindset shifts. And one of them is I talk about what we call ourselves professionals. And yet, I'm like, hey, compare yourself to a top tier professional athlete that watches film after the game, that talks with the coach after the game, that goes home and recovers perfectly to be ready for the next day, that comes in early and watches film of the next team they're going to play, that does dribbling, passing, and shooting for hours before like anybody else is there, that fuels their body perfectly to be ready for it. I mean, that's a professional. What do dentists do? They do dentistry, forget about it, walk home, go have a drink, like show up the next day completely unprepared and then get pissed that they didn't do better. That's what we do as dentists. So, are we like questions like that, Elijah? What does it look like for you to really show up like a pro? Like, because inside this league, this dental league, we got rookies that aren't going to make it. We got people who are going to be mediocre their whole career, and we got pros that are going to make millions upon millions more than the next player. And so, who are you going to be? That's like mindset shifts like that. A lot of dentists are like, shoot, I hadn't even thought about it.
Wow, that is an extremely good point. Eric, can you give me an example of a dental practice or group that you worked with that you were able to go in and make a transformative experience for?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, the example I just gave was of my dear friends, Dr. Raj and Dr. Ganglani with Ario Dental. And that way, you know, we literally they didn't actually have room for us to do a full deep engagement because they've got a lot of stuff going on. So they said, Eric, can you come in one day with our office managers and our associates? And in a single day, I mean, their ROI in just a couple of months has been hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it's not hard to get ROI on these things when you know what you're doing. And you know, the ROI isn't always just with our doctors too. Sometimes it's improving how they interact with our managers and how a combination of our managers and doctors can lead our teams better. But yeah, my experience with them is fresh on my mind because they had all these glowing testimonials from just a few weeks ago.
Wow, that's amazing. Eric, can you tell me, you've been in this journey with me with the Backstage Mastermind that has
Yeah.
turned into a all access, backstage pass for the entire industry. What is it like working with other dental entrepreneurs that share core values similar to you? How's it been?
Mm. You know, Elijah, you talked earlier about alignment of energy.
Hmm.
You mentioned that when you were talking about why things ended up working with Josie and I along the journey. And so, what I'll tell you is that in backstage, what you see is an alignment of energy. Entrepreneurs in the industry that are trying to make their dreams come true and also make other people's dreams come true. They're aligning their energies to grow. And you know what we see is like we joke about it all the time, you know, it's like the multiplication effect. It's where one plus one equals four when these new ideas integrate. And so yeah, that's what happens maybe to your business. But you know what's unique about a group like this, Elijah, is there's just connection. There's the opportunity for people to be seen as just human beings. You don't have to necessarily be on stage all day and like everything's not a sale. You can just be seen for who you are and develop real friendship as well. So that's what I would say the great value is that I've witnessed.
Thank you so much. For those people that have been listening, I'm sure that there's so many dentists. They're like, oh my gosh, I just need an associate, or I need the right associate. And
Hmm.
you want to reach out and talk
Yeah.
to Eric or engage Eric in his services. What is the best way that people can get in touch with you?
All right. Well, if you want to know more about dental associate growth, that's your website, www.dentalassociategrowth.com. But if you want to find out more about me and you want to connect with me directly, Dr. Eric J. Roman.com. That's where you can find me, Eric at Dr. Eric J. Roman. It's pretty simple. Come and see me, hit me up with your questions, and tell me how I can serve you inside of your journey.
Awesome. Thank you. And Eric, I couldn't give you a higher recommendation. I don't know if there's many people outside of Josie that have gotten to work with you more than me. You're stuck with me, brother. And I hope that others get the pleasure of working with somebody that I could call one of my best friends and mentors and coaches in dentistry.
Mm.
Everybody, that was a great podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please listen into the rest of the Backstage Pass podcast and hear all of the other resources that we have. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, Elijah. Bye bye.
Take care.